Okay, we'll reconvene the regular session, and we'll go into the potential change in marijuana ordinances. Our city attorney will kind of give us a little briefing on this.
Well, I think that everybody in the room has a basic understanding of the situation. The neighbors with the marijuana businesses are both here. We put out a press release a few days ago that identified as much of the issue as we could. We appreciate that people understand there's a portion of the decision, not of the decision, but a portion of the conversation that had to take place in executive session. I do believe that this council may want to make a change to the marijuana ordinance, specifically related to the 1,000-foot buffer between recreational marijuana facilities. Presented to you is an ordinance drafted kind of in combination with Mr. Wendelowski and myself that deletes section 5.18.050.d, which is the section that deals with the 1,000-foot limitation between recreational marijuana facilities. It also is very clear that marijuana facility within the recreational ordinance refers to and does not refer to medical marijuana, but recreational marijuana only. It clarifies the ordinance and should not lead to any more confusion, either on potential businesses' part or on the City of Lebanon's part. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, as is Walt, if people have any questions or any explanation for why the proposed changes are before the council.
I would say, for one, that just like we would not legislate two places that would want to sell beer, and there is no legislation that prevents that. In my mind, marijuana is much the same. I understand keeping it away from schools. I understand some of those provisions. I appreciate the keeping it from the kids, the view, the advertising, and that kind of thing. I really appreciate that in the community, but to legislate that 1,000-foot rule to me does not make sense. So that was my input.
I agree. And as the people voted last November, I believe it was, they said that they wanted to have marijuana sold in town. And we as a council came together and said, okay, downtown's an okay place, and we allowed that. And I don't see picking and choosing what buildings or what areas they can be in or how many can be as close to each other. I think we have a really good rule other than the 1,000-foot part, and I think that 1,000-foot rule just doesn't make any sense at this point. And I think it just would be better to let the market bear itself out. I mean, it's competition in any business, like you said, not even a liquor store, even two music stores next to each other. I mean, it's competition, and that's just kind of the free market process. And I don't think we should be judging who has a business or who doesn't. But the other point on this, the reason that 1,000-foot, and the city attorney can talk a little bit about that, was it was a League of Oregon Cities standard that was done on things like this. Could you explain that? Yeah,
and it's kind of interesting because it started out early in the discussion, and there's actually a state law that says that a city cannot legislate that more than 1,000. In other words, the city can't come in and say you have to be 2,000 feet apart or you have to be 3,000 feet apart, because they were worried about smaller cities that could potentially say, well, they need to be 5,000 feet apart, but we only have 3,000 feet of usable area. So they thought they could legislate how many facilities or how many places they could have. The real reason, the whole 1,000-foot, which is a time, place, and manner restriction placed on some establishments, arose just so that usually with establishments that draw a certain type of character or unsavory people to a certain area, that they don't want 5 or 6 businesses that draw that same type of clientele into a specific area that they can cause more problems and all that kind of stuff. And and I leave it up to the council to decide by policy whether that's a concern with recreational marijuana that has, specific times that they can sell and can't serve it or use it, or people can't use it on site. So that's up to the council to decide. But yes, there was really no discussion by this council. There was no discussion by me at the hearing in which we passed that recreational ordinance. It just kind of was part of the form that League of Oregon Cities, their experts, had passed out to pretty much all the cities that were adopting ordinances at the time.
Another interesting point is that on this law, we were waiting to the very last minute from the state for direction on writing the law and putting it together, League of Oregon Cities. Everything was very difficult, and it's very new. It's a whole new thing. So, the fact that we didn't have maybe the most perfect law in the world, and that phraseology was just wrong, and it didn't match for our situation. That was just something new for us and for the law. So I think this is a good change if we look at a change like this. The staff, just so everyone knows, the staff came up with 3 options, and so we had all 3 options available to us that we could look at. And then, of course, if there was something else, but I think that the removing the 1,000-foot from that would probably be the best method. I'd like to hear from the other counselors. Would you like to, Floyd?
It just makes sense to make it more in line with the way we would view other businesses for spacing.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not an advocate of it, marijuana, but we're stuck with it, so we continue with it.
Okay.
People have spoken, and I think the 1,000 feet thing, might as well just do away with it and
Okay.
go for it.
And Wayne?
Mayor, I do agree also that the 1,000-foot thing was kind of a number that came to us through League of Oregon Cities, and we wouldn't impose that, as Councilor Grizzle has said, in terms of retail stores, and I see these as retail stores, so I don't see any reason to impose any additional regulation on them. So I agree with removing the 1,000-foot thing is the proper move.
Okay. With that, we'll have the city attorney read the ordinance bill.
Make sure we got this updated. This should be the 2017-11. Ordinance bill number 2017-11, ordinance number 2899, a bill for an ordinance amending chapter 5.18 of the Lebanon Municipal Code regarding regulation for recreational marijuana sales and production.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance bill number 2017-11. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ordinance passes. Number 6, city manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll be brief tonight. As far as March goes, March is usually characterized for city staff by the budget process. We're usually busy in March putting all of the numbers together and figuring out the budget, which begins on July 1 of this year. I can report to you now that things are shaping up in a stable way. Our biggest challenge is, of course, the change to the PERS charges that the state is handing down to us due to the miscalculations that PERS had in the late 90s. I think we've updated the council on this in the past, but we're anticipating approximate 30% increase in our PERS costs, which is a sizable increase. And this is the first of probably 3 that we'll see over the next 6 years. So it's put a damper on our ability to look at regaining some of the positions that we cut back in 2014. We added some of those back with the last budget. This year, Dean and I are still we're zeroing in on the final numbers. I'm not confident that we're going to be seeing a lot of new positions in this budget, but other than that, we're stable. We're on course and ahead of our targets for our reserves that the council set through the financial policies. Oh, I think you passed those maybe a year and a half ago now. But we're close to attaining our ultimate goal on those reserves. As you may recall, we set it was a 2 or 3 year plan to build those reserves up and then eventually reaching that goal. I think we're a year out from there, but we're close to our goal even now. So we've done well in that regard. The budget is stable. The PERS thing has been a challenge to us. So March was spent working on all of those budget items, and also with the new treatment plant project, which is the biggest capital project this city has ever undertaken. Of course, that has an effect on the budget as well. We'll be meeting you all in early May to present the proposed budget, but I think it should be a good, solid document that we're going to propose to you. Other than that, I'll just mention that the Lebanon Arts Commission met for the first time in March. We've got a great group of folks, and I think some great cultural and entertainment types of projects that we're beginning to undertake. The first of which will be the grand opening of Strawberry Plaza on June 2nd of this year, which will follow right after the Junior Strawberry Parade on that Friday. So I'm excited about that. You've probably noticed that progress continues to be had at the construction site for Strawberry Plaza. We've got a plan to make sure that's all done on time, so I'm excited about that too. It's going to be a tremendous addition to downtown. That's all I have now, unless members of the council might have questions.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Gary. And by the way, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but Gary had to drive 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. He's at his city manager's conference right now. But actually, he's here, and he came all the way back to be with us tonight. Thank you. Number 7, provide city sewer service outside city limits. Ron Whitlatch.
What we have before you tonight is a request to provide sewer service outside the city limits. Requires, per our city municipal code, passage of a resolution in order to do so. One of the things that's also required is annexation. The folks that are asking for this, as listed in the memo, have applied for annexation. They are in desperate need of sewer. Their septic has failed. They have actually, Tammy was telling me that they actually have sewer in the house. So they are in desperate need of getting sewer. Pretty much just need an approval from the city council to do so, and then they're moving forward with the application for annexation. I can answer any questions.
Ron, what's the window that could happen for them?
Well, they've already gotten the bids in an emergency situation, and it's probably going to happen, I would guess, next week, if not at the end of this week. Yeah. They've asked Armstrong to do it. Fairly expensive proposition because it's a deep sewer main out there. So,
is it possible for someone to withdraw their application for annexation? Yeah.
I suppose they could, but I believe our resolution also gives us the teeth to get rid of sewer for them as well. So, and there's charges. I mean, basically, once you've filed the annexation in this, and Trey, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't really looked at that part of it. I suppose it'd be the same thing as not paying your sewer bill.
We have an enforcement arm. Cut it off.
We have teeth.
He's sitting right over here.
Have we done this type of thing before, Ron?
Yeah, it's becoming more and more common as these outlying areas outside, the state rule is if you're within 300 feet of a sewer main, you have to connect. They won't let you repair it, nor will they let you replace your septic system.
I think we've done it a couple times.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. We have.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead. City Attorney, read the resolution, please.
Resolution number 2017 dash, I know I got this
10.
one wrong. 10?
10.
Didn't we just have a 10? My excuse? Oh, we're out of order, so that's 10, and we already did 11. That's why I was confused.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's right.
Resolution number 2017-10, resolution to provide sewer service outside the City of Lebanon city limits.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2017-10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Items from council? Saturday is the Walk a Mile for a Child, starting at 10. Child abuse awareness over at the Justice Center. And I'll be there. Chief will be there. You guys be there?
I'll be in Vegas.
You'll be in Vegas. Oh, jeez.
Who put those blue flags on in front of Safeway there in the middle of the street? Boy, that had to be dangerous.
Oh, I saw that.
I saw that just today, and yeah, I don't know. Oh boy.
I know.
Maybe somebody was out there and stopped traffic. I don't know.
Oh,
That's
boy.
got to be Dela.
Anything else from council? Okay, seeing none, we have another opportunity for public comments. If anybody would like to speak to council, have another opportunity, sure, come on forward. And if you'll sign in your name there.
My name is Rosa Cazares. I am the CEO of Lamota Dispensaries. We currently have a medical dispensary on Main Street. We acquired the building 3 years ago. And our first, whenever we applied for the license 3 years ago, City of Lebanon did the moratorium. So we waited, we've secured our location for 3 years. So when I could apply for medical, I did. I didn't operate as a medical location because we were transitioning to the Oregon Liquor Control. So whenever the ordinances come out, it's my job to ensure that we're following the rules. So in the rules, it stated that a marijuana facility was medical OHA license or OLCC. So I think the reason why we're here today is because another dispensary within 1,000 feet got licensed prior to us, when I feel like we were the ones following the ordinances and the city didn't. So they issued a license, which is, it happens. I know this is new. I've dealt with it in many cities, about 15 in Oregon. But I feel that making a decision and allowing them to just be anywhere, there's another location opening right next door, getting ready to open next door. I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the dispensary that's down the street from us, but I feel that just by allowing anyone to open, it is, like I was telling Trey, it's not that we're just competing with each other. We're competing with the illicit market. And I think that's why myself, with the legislator, with the city, with the state, with OLCC, I work so hard so we can have the 1,000-foot buffers. We have the 1,000-foot buffers in Roseburg. We have the 1,000-foot buffers in Portland. I think that they are important. And the only way that I can come up with a solution other than seeking legal matter is to only allow both of the locations to maintain and not allow any more, because there will be a saturation. That is happening in Eugene. That is happening everywhere in the cities that don't allow some kind of restriction, because our industry isn't like liquor. We are the pioneers of this industry, so therefore we have to compete with the illicit market. That's our true competition, and people like myself and our company, we want to make this as a financially beneficial industry. And I just don't think that just lifting it and allowing everyone to open is the right decision. And I understand that the dispensary down the street from me is already operating. I know how hard it is to open up a business. I am a business owner. We do own a lot of businesses, but we still understand the struggles of opening. So I'm not here today to want to say, hey, I'm going to have my attorney contact the City of Lebanon, and because we're the ones following the rules. I don't want that. I just want to come up with an agreement where we are still having the 1,000-foot buffer and there is some kind of grandfathered in. I don't want to have a dispensary next door to me. It's going to be a race to the bottom. And do I feel like we can compete? Definitely. We're vertically integrated. We're the largest company in the state. We're the number 6 highest grossing company in the country. So can we compete? Yes. But I'm here to just kind of work with the city and figure out a way where we can come up with an agreement where it benefits both of us. And allowing them to open right next door is not going to benefit me.
So your argument for legislative intervention in the competition in your industry is that you're already competing with a black market,
Right.
and how does that pressure affect? I mean, help me understand that argument a little better, because I'm very, very conservative on keeping government out of things we don't belong in whenever possible. I don't like to legislate competition.
If we allow dispensaries to just open anywhere, right next door, I mean, like I said, we're just going to be competing in the market like we are in Eugene. So we're all fighting to the bottom, racing to the bottom, going back.
But the race to the bottom sometimes is to the benefit of the consumer, which is kind of market pressure. Is that race to the bottom? Is that what you're describing, market pressure?
We would be competing with prices, right? It would just be competing with prices. Well, that's what I'm saying is I want to come up with a solution where we're not having to do that, because I was following the rules initially. And the reason we're lifting the 1,000-foot buffer is because someone was giving a license not following the ordinances that were put out back in April. So that's why I have an issue, because I had a certain amount of money that we invested in the building. So there is 1,000-foot, right? So, for example, Shady Cove decided to only allow medical. So we were recreational. We did the early rec. They said, we're not going to allow it. So therefore, I never invested in putting a new roof, doing any of that, because I knew that could have been a potential. Now we're back into where we're still fighting it. Now there's a new mayor, and the mayor says, okay, let's come up with an agreement. We're going to allow it. So whenever the rules came out for Lebanon, there was a 1,000-foot buffer, which does make a big difference. Then we invest X amount. So now our whole business structure has to change, because there's going to be a dispensary directly next door to us.
But the majority of your investment was before we created that rule, correct?
No, I mean, we didn't start doing any flooring or any intaking of product until we got licensed. With the OLCC is when you can start intaking all of your products through the metric system.
Yeah.
So we based our investments on what we project we're going to be making, is how I target how much money I'm going to allocate to every location that I'm opening. So when I submitted in this application, I was told by one of the young ladies to read the ordinances. And I said, I did read those ordinances. I read them 10 times. And so then again, we're just going back and forth. And now we're just kind of saying, okay, well, let's take it off because we made a mistake. And nobody has ever apologized or said, hey, we are the ones that made the mistake, because I clearly read those rules myself.
Is that our position?
Well, I think that they're clear. This is always what the attorneys get. Some attorneys struggle with, and some are pretty good at it. It's trying to see both sides of every issue. So, I mean, I can try to see how she can argue that there's only one interpretation of that. I think that it would be very easy to make an alternate argument that it was very clear that it only applied to recreational when you put it into context in the fact that the ordinance that we passed was called recreational. Could it have been wordsmithed differently to make it more clear that it only referred to a recreational? For sure. But no, I don't think our position is not that the city made a mistake. We interpreted the statute or the ordinance in the fashion that we believed was appropriate, and we issued a recreational license. After the second one, LaModa came in, and for whatever reason, they didn't apply for a recreational for several months prior to that, even though they had the building for 3 years. But we took the recreational license, and we issued that license because there was not another recreational store. There was only a medical dispensary within 1,000 feet of that. That was our interpretation. I see that as a reasonable interpretation, but I have to, like I say, I always try to see both sides of every issue, and attorneys do that so they can give good advice, and I can see the interpretation that Rosa has done as well. I think she has a little bit harder time seeing my interpretation.
Well, in the rules, it clearly defines what a marijuana facility is. And in the marijuana facility, it says an OHA licensed or an OLCC licensed. And I know when I spoke with Trey, he said the intent was different. But I can only follow the ordinances word for word, just like a contract. It is what it is, and it is defined. It is worded in the front of definitions of the words, just like all of OLCC or OHA rules. There's always a definition. Anytime that you read a rule, you refer to the definition. And I did. And even being here now, I don't even know why I'm here today when I have followed the rules and have maintained that loyalty to the city of Lebanon for 3 years. We never have fought. We've always allowed until the people actually voted to even, I've never have once been disrespectful to the city for 3 entire years. I've paid $4,000 sewer taxes. That property, we bought that property for my mother-in-law, for her investment, to have the real estate. We invest a lot in our communities, and I felt when I came in that it was like, no, you're just not, you're not going to have this, retail dispensary. And I feel like it was very unethical that they knew we had a medical license. They knew we were there, that it wouldn't be something where it's like, hey, we're going, a simple email, a simple phone call. That's what the city of Roseburg did with us. They said, hey, we want to make sure that the medical dispensaries here are protected. Can we get your advice? We don't know anything. So whenever Lebanon made the rules, it was all I could do is read them. I didn't have any connections with anybody where I can say, hey, do you want my opinion? What is working? What is not working? And I've done that with every city that I've looked, from Rockaway Beach, from all the cities, to educate people. I mean, I could go on, but I feel that I don't really want that to happen. I don't want the 1,000-foot to be lifted.
I feel really bad. I do feel, on behalf of the city, I feel really bad for the confusion, and appreciate the investment that you've made in your business that's downtown. If we would have had, honestly, this 1,000-foot discussion a year ago, or I would have felt the same. Me specifically, would have felt the same about legislating that 1,000 feet. And this conversation has morphed a lot in the last year, 2 years, in a lot of councils, and I know on this council that has tried to come to grips with the fact that people do want medical or marijuana dispensaries, and we had to hear that a couple different times before we finally said, okay, we get it, we'll allow it. And as Trey said, we did not have that specific conversation. I'm still, I haven't heard anything to convince me that downward pressure isn't good for consumers. That is competition. That's what it's called when you're selling shoes. It doesn't matter what you're selling. That downward pressure. If you have a row of car lots, that creates pressure. The thing is, if you think about the fees that marijuana, we've contributed over $5 million to the state of Oregon. Mm-hmm. We contribute, all of our locations contribute drastic amount of sales taxes. A shoe company doesn't. The liquor. Liquor. The liquor, yes. Right. So they're obviously, the liquor control governs over them. Right. So our industry is different. You can't compare it. There's no industry that you can't write anything off. Our industry, we can't. So we're already operating at this fine line, where it's just, we're adding more and more and more. So we give 20% of our revenue. Not only that, we can't bank. We can't write things off, write our mortgage. I can't write any of that off. So then I'm constantly having to race to the bottom, and it's the point after 2 years in this industry, I need to fight for what's right. And I don't give up as a person. I can't. I want to have good relationships with the city of Lebanon. I want our company to be an asset
to the city. And it has been, and it's proven, obviously, based on the success of our company and based on all of the cities that we've been in, every moratorium was lifted because of from Medford to Rockaway Beach to Roseburg to Shady Cove, everywhere, because I want this industry to be successful and I want us to contribute a lot. I'm for the taxing. I spend every Tuesday in Salem making sure that we're all making the right decisions. So this kind of threw me off the loop. I had no idea that I wasn't doing the right thing. Why didn't I apply for a license till April? Because I have 20 locations. I have to make sure everything is getting done. It's not, we're not just opening in Lebanon. We have to prepare. We have one inspector that works with our company that says, okay, this week we do this, next week we do that. And I just don't know why me applying later had anything to do with it.
Okay, well, your time's up, and I've given you quite a bit of extra time. I just want to make sure you're able to voice your opinion. Is there any other questions of council?
I guess my question is, are we aware that there is a third store planned?
No.
I can't speak for Walt, but I certainly have no knowledge of it.
It's right next door to our location.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
sure of the address.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay.
Okay. Hi, I am Amber Roberts, the one of the owners of Modern Forest. I just wanted to kind of, I don't know, not back her up, but just kind of let you guys know too, since we are living here in the community and interact with the people that are downtown every day. I've had kind of just taken it upon myself to just go and kind of talk to some of the people downtown and see what it is that they're wanting or what the problem, I guess, is. And a lot of them have obviously an issue. I think this issue started with us being, right next door to each other. We're not 1,000 feet apart. When actually all of our putting in our paperwork and all that stuff ended up actually being miraculously right in line, either on the same day with each other or whatever it was. But the people that are down there, or the shop owners, one of them, Serendipity Cafe, she does kids' birthday parties also, and she was, she says, okay, what is here, I'm fine with, but to have the saturation of it in the whole area is what they're concerned about, just it's saturating that downtown area. So she's not here to speak for herself because kids or whatever, but just kind of to add that voice too from what I've heard from them. And so I know that we were concerned with, okay, well, when the town has another problem with it arising, well, what does that mean for us? Does that mean that we're allowed to operate as a business now, or should we be worried that when the town, which they will, because they already are, they've had a huge meeting yesterday about it downtown, what happens to us then? And then to also kind of just state, that they are still, the people of the town are still worried about the 1,000 feet there, because they're afraid there is another place going in next door to them. There is another place. So I guess
another recreational is planning, and up till tonight, they could not plan that. So I'm fascinated that how.
I think the confusion started with us with when you go to apply for your license, the first thing that you need in order to apply for that license for it to be looked at is a land use compatibility statement, the LUX form. Mm-hmm. So that form was signed for us. Actually, the city signed the form for us on the same day. So I don't know I'm not sure with the workings of it, if there were more than one that were signed on that day to say that it was okay for us to be there. So when you get that form back from your city saying, yes, we've signed it, we know where you're going to be, because you have to give your exact location, everything, to the city. They sign that, say that it's okay, and then you then turn around and say, okay, I'm good to go with my city. Now I can just complete the rest of my application as the state sees it and turn it into the state. And I feel like I'm good to go at that point, which was where we were at that point whenever the last time. So I don't know if maybe there was a day where all of those forms were signed, maybe. No, I don't know.
Well, no, I guess I'm not sure. The land compatibility just relates to, is it being proposed in an area that is zoned that it can be?
Right.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know.
Really mean
That you're good
It's
to
approval.
go, period.
That's
Right.
just where we start with the city,
right.
as far as figuring out that we can be there. So
Anybody
I don't know.
Anybody in
but-
that area would be zoned there, but it's just whether there was other restrictions that would keep them from getting a license.
If there's a huge outcry and people are concerned and want that 1,000-foot rule, I would just have to I would have to hear reasonable reasons, not like we're scared,
Right.
not like I have to listen to something real that says, well, here's why this makes sense, not because it's bad for my business.
Right, yeah.
To put, we're not here to legislate competition. So I would have to, for myself, I'm only speaking, I would have to hear why that makes sense legislatively.
So I guess I'm just asking if, not safe, but so what happens to us then at that point? Do we become grandfathered in, so if the town has an issue with it, or they come to the city and say, okay, we want the 1,000 feet rule, or this is what we want, or we're concerned, is that an issue for us or no?
I cannot imagine listening to this council tonight
Yeah.
that we would do anything that would backdate to hurt. You guys have followed the rules. You've been so far a real asset to the city, and I don't think anybody here would. There wouldn't be any reason that we would go after your businesses.
Okay.
It is if there's an outcry downtown and there's big public meetings, I want to know about it, and I want to know what's said and what people believe is reasonable on behalf of the city. I may not agree, and I'm pretty obviously open about disagreeing if I disagree.
Yeah.
But
I know a lot of those business owners downtown, and not one of them have talked to me about 1,000 feet.
Okay.
They just haven't.
Okay.
And I was just going to say, and try not to speak in any specifics, but just generally, you don't make retroactive laws. So, there's a lot of areas, there are places where, so a bunch of strip joints, started up, and once they got their license, then they decided they didn't like it, so they institute, well, no more. But certainly they can't get rid of any of them that were there already. No different with when they've made some of those regulations with bars or taverns and that kind of stuff. I can just say generally you don't make retroactive legislation.
we're not an unfriendly business.
I was a little surprised that no one from downtown came to talk. I'm very surprised. I received no email or no communications, no Facebook posts from anybody from downtown. And there were concerns that were brought up and different kind of rumblings in the past few months about us even allowing it downtown. But I've heard nothing, and I'm kind of surprised that there's no one here, either pro or con, to either way. Yeah. So it was just kind of interesting. But thank you for coming tonight, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate both of you and your businesses, and I hope you both do well.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if you do well, you'll squish out the competition.
Yeah.
So
We're working on it.
yeah. All right. Thanks. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing none. Items from the press. I'm sure you guys got to have something.
Can I get a copy of the ordinance that was passed?
Absolutely. We won't even charge you copy fees. Anything else? Okay. Our next scheduled meeting is May 4th and 5th. We have our noon budget committee meetings. Probably just be the 4th, but
Yeah, because
they
if we go
schedule
to the
that second
5th, I
one.
want,
Yeah.
I want.
And then May 10th and June 14th, so we only have one meeting this month. Nice, this month. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, anything else? Adjourn.